Hey everyone, welcome to She Knows Arsenal. It's another live show today. I know it's at a weird time, but make sure you guys like this video and subscribe to the channel. I'm super excited to be doing the show with Deluded Gunner. Do you want me to call you? Do you want me to call you CJ or no?
I'm immune to it. CJ, DG, deluded it. I
Okay,
just
because
respond
I'm
to
just
everything
like,
these days, man. Whatever you're more comfortable with,
I
Jess.
know some people are weird, like on YouTube about using like their real name or whatever, so I didn't know. But
Nah, man, I got that time. But then CJ, is it like whatever floats your
okay.
boat, man? I'm cool, man. I'm cushy.
Okay, perfect. So just to let everybody know, CJ was the one who was late, not me.
I'll pay the fine.
So
I was late. It was me. It
so we're
was me.
throwing him under the bus. It wasn't me. I was sitting here. I was waiting. No, but you guys, I'm excited to have this convo because you know how it is. We just want to get everybody else's opinion on yesterday's show. Everybody was trying to get me to be like, Arteta out. And I was really trying to like explain myself. And I'm just like, why am I under so much pressure to like say Arteta out? I'm not Arteta out right now. Contrary to what people may think, like I want to see what happens for the rest of the season. Weirdly, after the Liverpool game, I felt like the sky was falling. And now that some other teams have dropped points again, I feel like, oh, well, okay, Aston Villa dropped points, Spurs dropped points, not looking as bad as I thought. So maybe I could just get Delulu again and start to, delude myself into thinking that there's a chance. But I want to know what your thoughts are post Liverpool Dubai break going into the Crystal Palace game, because I think we spoke before the Liverpool game and we're like, oh, we're not in a crisis, and then we lost. So how do you feel right now about Arsenal?
Well, if we start with the Liverpool game, it's a weird one, man. Where I look at Arsenal, it's a mixed bag, really. I think there's reasons to be optimistic. I think there's reasons to be pessimistic. I would start with the positives. I would say fundamentally, we're dropping points in it. We're out of a cup anyway. Football is a business. It's about business. You either get through or not. But I would say it's not like when we was back to back eighth. We're playing diabolical football, etc., etc. It's like the signs are actually there. We're just not putting the ball in the back of the net. Now that obviously scares me because we've dropped off defensively. We're not putting the ball in the back of the net. Is it because of a lack of personnel? Is it down to the tactics? Is it down to the psychological aspect of our players probably thinking too much or not a little, or the last actions in terms of scoring? It's probably a bunch of that. In relation to the Liverpool game, upset. You know how I feel about the FA Cup. I don't know where the Premier League or the Champions League is concerned, but that's our trophy. We've won it 14 times. And it was a bit disappointing because I think against Liverpool, we started brilliantly. Like first 14, 15 minutes, we were very good, but fundamentally, just we didn't do what you need to do and put the ball in the back of the net, whether that's Nelson, Saka, Havertz, and everybody else. So it was a bit disheartening. Obviously, we've spoken about where the Premier League is concerned. If you want to fight Liverpool City for the trophy, you need to pick up points. It's not really good enough to have dominate possession and all the touches and stuff. You need to be street smart and put the ball in the back of the net. As you kind of alluded to at the start, I don't look at the league table, but there's a lot of narratives. There's a lot of narratives around Arsenal. There's a lot of narratives about City, etc., etc. We're still in and around it. So we make of that what we can. Do I think we're going to win the Prem? Nope. Do I think we're going to win the Champs? Nope. But we just have to keep it moving. I think the Dubai break, I think you mentioned Dubai, right? So I think the Dubai break came at the right time in that we can forgive ourselves for the L's, pat ourselves on the back for the W's, and kind of recharge. I know a lot of Arsenal fans are a bit unhappy about Saka posting pictures, and it was a bit scary seeing Mikel Arteta getting meat put in his mouth by an ex-man. Pause. That's crazy, Mikel Arteta. That is a sackable offence, but on a serious note, it's just about togetherness, isn't it? Like it's a different environment, and for the boys, because obviously, if you're training at London Coley, some of them are going to link up and do things in their personal life, but largely you're to your own devices. In Dubai, you're going to be by yourself. Obviously, the manager's going to be there, but it's going to be the players, and that's what a real dressing room looks like. I would love to speak to the players when Arteta isn't there, and the players that speak up or don't speak up. That's really what it's like. So I'd like to see that. They kind of arrest where we've gone wrong. They've got a points tally on the board, and let's move forward. I'm a bit nervous. I'm sure you're going to ask me about it, but I'm a bit nervous about Crystal Palace just because of how we're playing. But if we can beat Palace, Nottingham Forest, and Liverpool, the narrative around the football club changes. As you know yourself, Jess, a week is a long time in football, and we played 19, 20 games, so there's been a lot to talk about. So mixed bag, really, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I feel exactly the same. It's like I don't feel like we're going to win anything, but equally I feel like our form will go up and we'll start playing better. Like I
Fingers
just
and
don't
everything crossed, man.
yeah, I just don't think we're going to keep doing what we've been doing. I think that they hit a little bit of a wall and they needed a break. And hopefully this break has helped them, because I've never seen an Arsenal team be so afraid in front of goal. Like usually Arsenal teams are bad at the back, but when we
Mm.
want to score goals, we're just like that's all we really care about.
It's just that final action that's missing, like putting the ball in the back of the net. Like we're playing relatively okay, and that's
Is
cool,
that
but we're
confidence?
just not
Is that
scoring.
just
Pardon?
confidence, you think?
Of course, it's got to be confidence. Confidence. Apologies, is infectious. Naturally, how many times do we see players when we're in a great bit of form? Players do things that are out of this world, or you didn't think they had in their locker. Equally, now Saka's decision making ain't really good enough. Jesus' decision making, everybody's. So of course, it's got to be confidence. But I would say I do think Arteta is trying to give them that, but I think it's down to the players to get that headspace and that when things are going wrong, you're not as bad as you think you are. When things are going good, you're not as good as you think you are. Good and bad. It's like seasons, in it, where there's sun, there's going to be rain. We couldn't have been naive enough to expect that we weren't going to hit a blip across the season. Granted, it's happened a lot earlier than it's happened in the last 2 seasons, but obviously it's got to be confidence and it's got to be harsh for the players because clearly they care, they're working hard, they're training. And when you're doing all of that and trying to arrest this and you're not getting the results you want, of course it's going to play on your
Yeah.
confidence, man. So yeah, man.
Yeah, I think so. I, I the whole goal scoring thing is interesting because some people have really like nailed it onto Mikel. He's not letting them have freedom. He's not setting up the tactics well or whatever. And then, obviously like the Pep quote keeps coming out about like, oh, well, I get you to the final third and it's up to you guys to like do what you need to do once you get there. And then he also, I saw like a little video of Pep going around saying that final third is all about quality and the players that you have in those positions, if they could actually execute at a high level. And so I wanted to, before we get into Ivan Tony and stuff like that and how we can add on to this group or whatever, I the current group that we have, do you feel like there's enough quality in there? Or do you just think that Arteta's not getting the most? I've seen people say that he's over choreographed our final third, but I don't know if I necessarily see that. I feel like they get into the position and they just kind of either sometimes they get it or sometimes they don't. So what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's a bit of both, man. I think Pep Guardiola's bang on the money, but obviously, like, there's going to be they're going to be coached to a degree in the final third. Potentially, Mikel Arteta could leave them to their own devices. The vast majority of them attacking players were here last year. It was like sixth sense. They didn't have to think about it, and they're not able to do it this year. So they've got it in their locker, and something's not going on. So I think individually and collectively, the players need to arrest it. But I do think if I'm looking at it under the scope of, we've got young players. There's a lot of versatility. Everything in life has to come back to the owner of an organization, which in the footballing term would be Mikel Arteta as a manager. So I guess it's something for him. The man himself says, I need to maximize my existing players. I know you're going to speak about Tony, but whether we get any of these strikers, Arteta
Yeah.
himself has said, we need to be a team that can get 100 odd goals. One man ain't going to do that alone. And what if that striker comes and has an off day, essentially? So I think it's a bit of both. I think the players need to get back to basics. But at the same time, I do think it's a bit of how Mikel Arteta has assembled the squad. I do think these players have a lot more than they're given. But like, take the Liverpool game. I think Kai Havertz did well up front. Ultimately, though, when you need to put the ball in the back of the net, you're unable to do that. Havertz has never shown me that you're a clinical striker. So how much can I really place on him, or how angry can I get? The same with Gabriel Jesus. I know Martinelli and Saka are quality players, but they're young. It's very volatile. You're not necessarily going to get things like that. So I do think indirectly, Mikel Arteta may or may not have signed up for these moments with how he's historically assembled the squad, really, man. So yeah.
Yeah, I kind of think of it as like, okay, so if Klopp had our front five, our attacking players, and Arteta had Liverpool's attacking players, who would do better? I kind of feel like,
But they got Mo Salah, so them in it.
yeah, I feel like whoever gets that group is going to do better. That's how I feel. If like those Liverpool players were in the same positions that our players had been in the last couple of games, they would have scored some of those chances. I think people have to be all the way freaking for real. Like our players missed some very like I don't want to say easy, but they missed some point blank chances there. If you're a good attacker, confident attacker, you would have put it in the back of the net. So I definitely think we need to add on to the group. Obviously, Arteta needs to figure out a way to get these players into their confidence. I think we have a difference of opinion on whether it's them that needs to do it or Arteta that needs to do it. I think the manager needs to figure out a way to get them going,
It's
you
both,
know?
innit? It's both, innit? It's like boxing. Like
Yeah,
you could be my boxing coach and tell me, CJ, look out for this, look out for that, do this, do that. Once I'm in there, it's down to me to either retain that information and relay it and implement it. And I'm not being funny. These players are old enough, ugly enough to know, and experienced enough to know the difference between winning or losing it. Ultimately, we're trying, we know we've done this project thing. Arteta has shown he can do that, and the players as well. If we're now trying to cross over to be a team that wins trophies, the margins for error starts to get a little less. We need to
yeah,
start being a lot more street smart, and it's not necessarily good enough to dominate for 80 minutes or 90 or
right.
85 minutes. We now need to start getting over the line. So I think ultimately it all comes down to Arteta, good or bad. You're the manager in it, essentially, but the players need to
Mhm.
buck up their ideas. And even in the Liverpool game, where I'm not a psychologist, but I look at when players miss. And in previous months and even last season, we missed, we go again. Sometimes players we look like we're thinking about it too much now. So I think it's both.
I likened it to like there was one time where Odegaard hit the crossbar. He just
Mm,
kind of moved on from it. Saka, he missed a chance. I think he hit the post or something like that, and he just looked like you know. And then you saw Havertz. He looked like he was at a freaking funeral.
yeah,
The guy looked
yeah.
like depressed out there playing for Arsenal. I'm like, is it that like devastating to be playing for Arsenal right now? Like
Pressure's a
it's
privilege, man. It comes with
yeah,
it. It comes with it.
yeah, they seem like they're feeling it a lot. So hopefully they can you know, relax from the Dubai trip and come back with a fresh perspective. But there's also been a lot of talk about whether or not Edu and Arteta should be under more pressure for not getting a striker, you know, not doing this, not doing that, bringing in the right players. And then you look at somebody like, you know, Ivan Tony that seems to be quote unquote available in this January window. He's even speaking about it. He hates Brentford, by the way.
Yeah,
Like the way
he's
that,
twerking for Arsenal again. Wish
yeah,
Declan Rice happy birthday, and his comments that have just come out today. It's like, boy,
yeah. I'm like,
he's a
and it's
madman. He's doing all he can to get out of there, man.
yeah, and the funny thing about it too is like he's almost acting as though like he's been done dirty in some way, like, and he needs to like prove the haters wrong. It's like, did you not bet?
You bet. But
Or
I like that from him though, because if I'm honest, we got too many nice guys in our team. I like all
okay,
of our
okay,
players, but you can't
okay.
name me any athlete who's won anything or any team that's won anything and they're universally nice guys. We need to start. I'm not saying people need to be horrible, but I like that. I like the way he backs himself. I'm being a bit harsh to Gabriel Jesus, who I like, but he said scoring goals isn't a strong point of mine. Ivan Tony comes out and says, I believe I'm going to score all the time. And I do believe as an athlete, even if, let's be honest, Ivan Tony's making up enemies in his head, he's hearing voices, but that can help you. We need all of
Yeah,
that. I'm here for that, man. He's
yeah.
bipolar, but I'm here for it, man. Like we need
Yeah.
mentality monsters. I think a
He's
couple of
geeking
them have it.
himself up. He's geeking
Exactly. You
himself
need
up
that.
for the return. Yeah. Like
Exactly.
even like the little poster that they have up, like the little graphic that they have up looks like it could be up at like a movie theater, like coming soon. Like it's like is
Exactly.
how long has he been gone? Well, he's been gone for a while, but this feels like a transfer that's inevitable in my opinion. Like it just feels like he's twerking. Arsenal want to bring in an English striker, reports say English striker, blah, 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 Premier League proven. He's going to be available whether it's now or in the summer. You know, we've kind of spoken. I told you I'd be devastated if we brought in Ivan Tony. I do not feel any differently.
Damn.
Um, I do, because I'm just looking at this guy and I'm like, are you about to be like, somebody said, are you going to be an expensive Trossard? And I was just like, I mean, that's kinda how I feel. I'm like, are we gonna be looking at him, like, after a couple of months and be like, "Who else is out there that we could go get because you didn't really hit the mark?" But what are your feelings on, Mr. Tony here? You know, do you think he could be the kind of striker that gets us 20, 25 goals a season? Do you think he could be the guy if we were to give him he'd probably take the number 17 off of Cedric's back, let's be serious, but if we gave him number 14, do you think he could hold that up and not look like it was overtaking him, the pressure, you know? Could he do
I
it?
don't, I feel when it comes to pressure, I think he obviously respectfully to Brentford, but pressure at Brentford and pressure at Arsenal, just like it's a bit different, but David Raya is very different, you know, down to the way
Yeah.
Arsenal players breathe is very different. But I think considering Ivan Toney's come up, he's been in the lower leagues, he kind of wants to prove the doubters wrong. He's made it very clear that I want to move on. I like his resolute mentality. He believes he could score, and that's what the best players do. You know, the best players have a bad game and they go again. Would Ivan Toney be my first choice? No, I'd probably want to go again for Vlahovic. You got a brace. I would love Osimhen. I know his form's horrible, but I think Sesko. If you cannot get them, then I think there's a lot of reasons to want Ivan Toney. He's English, he's Premier
Yeah.
League proven, he's got the swagger on his back. I think, you know, had we have been creating the chances we're creating, he puts the ball in the back of the net. I don't feel like how you feel with Ivan Toney. It wouldn't be the first choice, but I definitely wouldn't be against it. And I believe he could score 20 odd goals, really and truly. I do like Toney a lot, man. And he seems to be one of the more attainable strikers because, as you know, he's changed agent. Anyone who listens to him, he makes it kind of clear indirectly.
He's
I'm leaving.
desperate.
He's desperate. You're gonna get some, bro. Relax. Like, he's too excited. Like, he's very excited. Like,
Let
he's
us
kind of
chase
got
you
one
a
foot
little
out.
bit.
Exactly. Like, it's a bit jarring. What I would say is what I want to see from Toney is show me that it's almost like you ain't missed this 8 months because you aren't going to be fully
Right.
fit and you're trying to get into the Euro squad. You know, Brentford, to be fair, many clubs with this betting thing, they would have washed their hands on the striker. They've backed you, they've supported you. Go and show that you're one of the top dons and let's have a conversation in the summer, innit? But I wouldn't be against Ivan Toney, man. I like his mentality more than anything.
Yeah, and you have to be a little bit of an asshole to play for Arsenal up front. You just have to. Like, you think
You have
about
to.
our best strikers ever, they were
Henry was a
all
bastard. Let's be
yeah,
real. Vieira
exactly.
was a cunt. Like, pardon my language. They were.
100%. I just feel like you're right. Like, a lot of our players are good players, but they're nice. They're nice,
They're
and they
nice
need
guys.
somebody up there that's like an asshole, and he's definitely 100% that. That's for sure. I don't have a problem with the age. You guys know this. Like I've said, like I don't have a problem with the age as long as the fee is not super high. Like it has to feel right. Like I feel like he makes so much less sense at 80 million plus. He makes a lot more sense around the 50, 60 million pound mark, So this feels inevitable to me in some ways. Like I feel like the window feels like Ivan Toney, Zubamendi, Pedro Neto, and some left back. That's what it feels like to me. Things can change though. Talk to me a little bit about Vlahovic though, because he played well yesterday for Juventus against Sassuolo and he got a brace. And one thing I like about him and Tony is that they both are dead ball specialists. I don't know if people know this, but we have not scored a goal from a free kick since 2021 against Burnley. It's been a long time. It's not a priority, but it's definitely something that we're missing, right? So, what is it about Vlahovic that you think makes him feel like somebody that like maybe Arteta would want? Because he did want him in the past. So, what is it about him that you think Arteta liked?
It's a bit weird trying to make out what Mikel Arteta wants from his striker. Like, obviously, strikers have to score goals. And I'm not saying it's like this, but based on, who we've excelled at, obviously, with excluding Aubameyang, goals haven't necessarily been the main requirement from a striker. Or Eddie Nketiah would not get run-ins. Or for as much as I like Gabriel Jesus and I'm a massive fan of his, where you look at Vlahovic, he's almost like a throwback striker. And that's where I kind of wonder, what does Mikel Arteta want? He scouted it. I want Vlahovic to be considered. He wouldn't be the first choice because Arteta heavily wanted him. Fair enough. He wanted Mudryk. He wanted Rafinha. People would say he looks like a dud. I'm not saying Arteta's the messiah, but I like his age profile. He's like 24 odd. He's Serbian. And I think them kind of man got the mentality that they want to be serious. As you said, he's a dead ball specialist. Yeah. He scores goals. Like, I do have concerns, mate. He doesn't look like the quickest. Maybe he is, but it's just the running style. But I think he should be considered. And it seems like he's in a bit of a contractual situation at Juventus as well. The only thing I would say as a slight on Vlahovic is, I don't know I believe players in theory, if you can score goals in Italy or Germany or wherever, you can score goals in England. But when you look at some of the players that, move to Italy and score a lot of goals, whether they're old or not, or young that weren't really rated, they bag. So I don't know if the exchange rate would happen. So I think Vlahovic should be considered, man. Like, I really do think he should be considered. For me, Osman would be the number one. I don't think he's heading to Arsenal. So yeah, man, I think Vlahovic, Toney, these kind of guys should be on the list, if I'm honest.
Yeah, and I don't think it'll take much for Arsenal to upgrade their center forward situation. I genuinely do think people feel like we're in a better situation than we are. Maybe this is an overstatement, but we're in the pits. We have a striker that doesn't feel like he's a striker.
Ooh,
and he's giving Lacazette, like, let's be serious. He's giving.
I said this and people tried to kill me. But at the same time, this is where I go with Arteta, because obviously it would have been very romantic. Jesus is a great player. Pep rates him. Arteta rates him. We all rate him. He's talked about for Brazil and that. But for all his strengths, you don't speak about him scoring goals. You talk about him as a defensive forward. It would have been very romantic if him playing up front and the platform, he would score goals. And to be fair, his first season with injuries, he got an okay return. But he has never shown you in his mid-20s that he's a clinical kind of forward. This is what I mean about accepting players for what they are, or potentially learning from City in that, Jesus was a key player for City, but he weren't the guy. They weren't going to live or die by him scoring goals. So do we accept them for what they are? How much can we complain when Zinchenko is shaky defensively? Kai Havertz is a mixed bag depending on the game. Jesus, for all his quality, doesn't bring goals. How far can that really go? Because we know what these players are like, really and truly. Like,
Yeah.
I love Jesus. I think he's a valuable player for this team. And I think even if we get a striker, he'll get fairly a lot of football. But he's never been a savage. He's never been a bagsman. So it's like,
Yeah.
I would love for you to wake up and be that, Jess. But boy,
But
like,
he's not. And I'm
he's
like,
not
I'm
that.
okay with that. Like, I wanted Jesus here. Like, I did. Like, I was gassed when we signed him. I was like, yes, we finally got
And I
Jesus.
still am.
But I always knew, I told people, like, do you guys think he's going to get 20? I was like, no. I was like, subtract 10 from that. And that's probably what he'll get max, like 10 to 15 goals, but he's going to give you so much other things. But when you start getting into that Lacazette mold where you lose your head completely, and it's like now you're like spiraling psychologically about the goal scoring, then I'm starting to look at you a little bit like, okay, what do we have here? And then you have Eddie, who we all know is just not good enough, So I said that Brighton have better striking options than we do, and I still feel the same, and that's why I'm like, if you just get somebody in there,
Who they got up front?
Welbeck, João Pedro, and Evan Ferguson.
Well, to be fair, big up Ferguson. And I like João Pedro. You've been doing your thing for my FPL team.
Let's be serious.
I ain't trading none of them for Jesus. I'll play Martinelli up front before a couple of them. I'd love Ferguson. He's a savage, but sometimes he's not even in the team. Trossard can go up there as well. I'm not going to quite throw Havertz in there. But, I disagree, Jess, man. I disagree.
Come on. But
Ferguson's lit, but mixed bag.
My only point with that is that, like, I genuinely feel like it won't be that hard to upgrade our situation because we don't have a clinical forward. And so just get somebody who's more clinical and we'll see how things improve. But I saw a report about Armando Broja. Chelsea are going to sell him in this window. And they don't care whether or not they get a replacement because they're going to probably play in Nkunku there. And it made me think about the conversations that we've been having about why Arsenal are not willing to sell Eddie. And the reason for not wanting to sell Eddie is because they can't find a striker to replace him. What is your feeling on the Eddie situation and whether or not Arsenal should be selling and trying to reinvest or just sell it all? Because in my opinion, Eddie is somebody that in a January window, a lot of teams would want because they're more desperate for goals. But when we get into the summer window, when everybody has more options, he'll fall down the pecking order and maybe the opportunity to get a 30, 35 million from a Crystal Palace will go away. And with the striking options that we have, like you said, Trossard, Havertz, these guys, is Eddie that good where we can't afford to move him on even without replacing him? Because if exactly what Chelsea are trying to do, I would like to see Arsenal do with Eddie. Just move him on and just use Havertz and Trossard and them up front. What's the difference?
This is all assuming that Eddie Nketiah would want to leave. Like it's one thing
Yeah.
getting offers. Like let's just say, boom, Crystal Palace, Brentford have said whatever. But he's on a decent. I'm not pocket watching. I don't care what a man gets, but he's on decent money. He's wearing the number 14. He's a boyhood fan. He's somewhat got the trust of Mikel Arteta. Technically, he is our second top goal scorer up until the Fulham game in the Premier League. Whether he should be in this position and we should be having this conversation is on Mikel Arteta, and I wouldn't want that. But it's all assuming Eddie Nketiah wants to depart. I hear you with the Chelsea point with Wolves, but Chelsea are not in any European football. Their season, they're at a different period. It's a bit of a write-off for us, really. I would keep Eddie Nketiah as a body. I'm not gonna lie, if you offer me 30, 40 million without the assurance of bringing in another striker, I have a decision to make. And just because I'm saying that right now, I might change up the pattern tomorrow. It all depends what the knock-on effect. Can that 30, 40, whatever million, can that go towards Tony? Can that bring me a winger? Can that go towards defensive reinforcements? Can we get in another number 8 so that we can unlock Declan Rice or maybe kind of sort out this left-hand side and get Martinelli going again? I do think Eddie is disposable goods. I do think he is improving and he has improved. He's just not of the level. And again, I also think there's a reality to loan out Eddie Nketiah. And I'm not saying loan him out to bring him back. If he left and become a 20-goal a season striker, great. But he could go to another Prem team, do well, and we could get 30, 40 million for him. We might get 50, 60, dependent on him because he is young, because he is English. I'm overselling him a bit, but he has been capped by his country. So it's a difficult one. I do think Eddie Nketiah is past his sell by day. I do think you're only going to get to a certain place when you're assembling your squad with two strikers who don't want to score goals. And what I would say, not to knock Eddie, for Jesus' weakness in front of goals, he's great at everything else. Eddie Nketiah is very mediocre at best. Like in relation to hit the attackers, the only thing I could say, I wouldn't even say he's better than that, but he's more hungrier to score goals. His link-up play isn't quite there. It's just got to be disposable goods, really and truly, man. Like if there's an offer for Eddie, great. But then even if you're a Premier League striker, I mean a Premier League club, if you have the money, that's another thing. But has Eddie Nketiah showed you that whether you're pushing to get into the Europa or the Champs or stay in the division or a mid-table finish, has he showed you that he can start for your Premier League team? Has he shown you that he will get 10 goals or plus? I'm not sure, man. I'm not
I don't
sure.
know. I mean, with the, reports out there around Crystal Palace wanting him, I mean, that was out like the first couple of days of January. I would take that. I just feel like when we get into the summer and we decide, yeah, so now we're ready to sell Eddie. Now we're ready to sell Emil. Now we're ready to sell these. There's going to be so many better options out there that teams can look at, that the likelihood of us getting the same amount, the desperation cash that we would get now, we're probably not going to get in the summer. And it'll take longer to sell him and it's going to be annoying. But listen, Eddie's going to probably stay. Emil's going to probably stay. These
Hopefully,
guys are
we got Smith Rowe.
anyways.
You know
You
how I
and
feel about
freaking
Smith Rowe, man.
Emil. I mean, I read something today about Emil doesn't really want to leave, but things could change for Arsenal. So, I don't know. He'd probably do well at a Villa or Newcastle. I don't necessarily want to see him at a club that could hurt us, but because he'll definitely score against us. We know that that's how it works. But, I think Emil needs to go for his own career, but, maybe he'll still make it. I don't know. People are
Come on,
still
Smith
holding
Rowe.
on hope. I
You
get
got
it.
this. You got this, Smith Rowe. You got this, man. You got this. You got this. Your time's coming, man. If it don't, I'll cry.
Oh my gosh. No, I get that. But Arsenal are also, said to be looking at more defenders. And so what are your thoughts on the De Ligt and Branthwaite rumors? I actually saw something from The Athletic that Arsenal are like lining up a move for De Ligt in the summer. And I'm just like, he's going to cost a lot. Is that what we need to be spending our money on? He's going to cost at least 60 million, at least.
I mean,
And he's
it all depends how much is available to invest in other areas. And I know many people will look at, the lit and people like that and say, we've got Gabriel and Saliba. That's great. And keep that going. And any player that comes into this club that is a decent centre half is going to have to try and disrupt that. But we need a squad. We saw what happened when Saliba was out. There's a lot of games, City have maybe more so the last couple of seasons, but they've got a number of players that can excel at that in defense. And there's been times where Ake's been on the periphery of things. Then he's grabbed his spot. There was a time where it was like Diaz, Laporte, and someone else. I'm all for it. I don't really buy the lit rumors. There's probably an admiration internally, but it comes down to a lot of money. And we might say, do you know what? There's cheaper alternatives. But I do think we're looking for someone that is likely to push them two centre backs. We was linked with Diamande when he was playing in Denmark, and now at Sporting. We were previously linked with Gurhi. As you said, they're lit. So maybe that is a scope for improvement. Really, I do think Gabriel is more likely to be disposed of to a degree than Saliba, and I don't think that's fair because I don't think Gabriel gets his plaudits. But I'm all for it, man. Really, stronger squad we got. We're doing all right, man. Scalvini is another great little young player in Italy as well, man.
Yeah, my thing is get it right. I know that, I've said this many times on the channel. It's like, as much as we don't love hearing about the defensive players, one injury to Gabriel or Saliba and it's done. It's finished. Like, you can talk to me about a Ben White, a Kivior, all you want. Those guys are not going to be able to do what Saliba and Gabriel do back there in any way, shape, or form. It's not happening, so Arsenal do need to bring in that type of player. And I prefer maybe for Arsenal to look in that center back area than looking at another left back. I see that we keep looking at left backs. I'm like, just deal with what you got. Just deal with what you got.
I disagree.
What? Okay, so now, so you want to get a center back and a left back? We need to pick one defender and that's it, because we got to get a winger, a striker, a midfielder. Like, do you have left back and center back money?
But
You
they
do?
better find it, innit? If you want to be a club that can compete, you better find that. My
Well, you
first
don't want to sell
priority would,
Eddie in January, so I mean,
I know my first priority would be someone of like the Timber Tomiyasu kind that can play across there. If I know I'm asking for look like a unicorn, but if you can find a left back or a right back, great. I must admit, I agree with you. I would want a centre half, but in last recent games, I think it goes under the radar that we all know Zinchenko's shaky defensively, but he picks up a lot of injuries. I like
yeah,
Kirill. And I don't really care for all of this. Oh, he's not a centre back, bro. You can still play left back, and there should still be some basic competencies. I'm a bit nervous about that. So if we can act in the market, let's do that. And I don't know who, but you should be able to find it. It's like the lesser of the two evils. Like I'm playing Zinchenko over Kirill every day of the week, but as I said, Zinchenko's hardly covering himself with glory, man. And
yeah,
we ain't gone for them. But when we was linked with Kyle Walker-Peters, Timothy Cassandre, Aaron Hickey of Brentford, they might not be the answers, but James Justin of Leicester, I think they all had the same commonality in that they can handle two roles. And I think we need to make them kind of smart additions. Like you look at someone like Ake, he can play centre half and left back in. Whether he's going to be a squad player or regular, great, but he's a good addition. I think we need to be a bit cute and clever. Again, to use City as an example, I know Pep is crazy and he'll play everyone everywhere, but you've got, apart from Diaz, who's more or less an organic centre half, you've got that Guardiola guy, you've got Ake, you've got Kanji, you've got Stones. Them lot can play centre half as well as fill in other areas. And we have shown a willingness to sign these multifunctional players, but I think we need a couple more, man. I would love to wake up and we sign a winger and a striker, but boy, if we get another injury defensively, as you said, or this Kyrion Zinchenko stuff continues, boy, like the writing's on the wall, isn't it? That's all I'll say.
oh my goodness. We need so much. Like that's
We
just
do.
the reality. We need so much, and that's because they need to get it right. When you buy a player and you invest, like they need to start getting these right, and not the amount of left backs that we bought so far under Arteta has been
Amount of
quite
defenders
a
full
bit.
stop, man.
Yeah, it's like 4 at least, 4 DMs we've bought and like 5 goalkeepers. These are the
Love that.
positions that we continuously buy in that we need to just kind of like, okay, buy the person that you really need to get it right, because we're spending a lot of money in the same positions. But, for the center back position, like I fear the injury to Saliba or Gabriel. So I would love to see somebody else come in, whether that's now or in the summer. Um, the only thing that I say is that they need to have the same athletic qualities, like the same 1v1 in space qualities that those two have, or else it's not worth it. And Delit to me is heavy and clumsy, like and injury prone too, or he gets quite a bit of injury. So it's a no for me. Branthwaite looks great, but I'm not sure that we'll be able to get him over like some of the other teams that are more desperate for like a starter, like Man United. I feel like they're desperate for a starter, so he might not be somebody that we go for. But I'm so like, how many more defenders are we going to buy? Go get somebody like maybe that's younger, that's cheaper, and don't spend your whole freaking, budget on another center back because Kivior is just out here in the ether. It's like this guy is here. You spent 25 million on him and you don't want him around, like, or you're not using him. So, figure that out. But yeah, defense is something that people are not really interested in, but I totally get it. Last but not least, there's also talk about the long-term future of the DM. And I want to get your thoughts on this as well. That Arsenal will look towards the long-term future of the defensive midfield. Arsenal are yet to decide on Jorginho's 12 months extension, and Arsenal would like to keep Ramsdale, but no players off limits, blah, blah, blah. So would you extend Jorginho? Would you?
It depends.
And
It depends.
yeah, yeah, depends on.
It really it depends on a lot, man. I would say first and foremost, it's what Jorginho wants to do. At his age, do you want to go back to Italy? Do you want to go to do you want to go back to Brazil? I'll probably the only reasons I would probably keep him is I do like him as a body in the squad. I do have an appreciation for his mentality. You see him coaching and the experience and all of that jazz, but it has to
Yeah,
be, and probably keep him if Partey leaves just for another body. But I think regardless, we need 2 central midfielders. At present, I'd probably say it's best to keep it moving in it. Like realistically, I like Jorginho
yeah,
and I like El Nene. More Jorginho's clearly way better than El Nene, but where we want to go as a football club, can they bet on us? Can we bet on them? Sorry, we've got a lot of players, and I think Jorginho is one of them. I think Jorginho is very good in certain game conditions, but for every Liverpool game where he was outstanding, there's the Chelsea away where you've got him and Zinchenko, and it's like passengers. So I do think the midfield needs to be addressed. I think you look at our attackers, whatever people have to say, there's some good options. I think whatever people have to say about our defenders, there's good options. I'm not saying these are bad players in the midfield,
Yeah.
but Declan Rice is the only one that is going to be here long term, and there's positive questions. You don't know if they want to shed Partey's wages. You don't know if he still wants to be here. You don't know if the club's trying to move him on. You don't know if they'll give him a new contract. We just spoke about Jorginho and El Nene. Kai Havertz. I don't know if your long-term future will actually be in the middle of the park or you're more of a utility man. So yeah, I do think we're missing, man. I would love to see a couple of midfielders come in, and I would actually love to see if he stays. Charlie Patton will naturally take a role as well, but yeah, man, midfield has to be addressed. And as we said on the last stream, Edu and Arteta, you were centre mids, bro. So what's going on?
Yeah, I know. And the thing is like, I think you have to keep one of the old guys around just to keep things like
Partey or
steady.
Jorginho?
Yeah, Partey or
Not El Nene,
Jorginho.
respectfully.
Yeah, it's like, do you extend Jorginho's contract by, give him an extension?
But
Sorry, no, I'm
only if he's
glitching.
on the peripheral of things, though, next season. Like you're about.
Well,
You're not
yeah,
really
you're
the
gonna
guy.
take the El Neni role. Like,
Yeah,
basically, you need
yeah,
one of
yeah.
these guys to drop down into the El Neni role. You have two options. You could let Thomas Partey run his deal down because he only has a year left on his deal past now, or you extend Jorginho, and you have one guy that's always available, but probably not as good as the other guy. You have another guy, like, it depends on how often you anticipate using this person. And I do think Arsenal are going to go out there and buy a DM instead of buying a left center mid, if people understand what I mean by that. Like, I don't think we're going to go out there and get Paquetá. I think we are going to go out there and get like a Zubamendi,
I'm all on that. Everyone knows I'm a big fan of Zubamendi.
Yeah.
Get that done, man.
Yeah. So then whoever's, left behind becomes like the El Neni, which is fine. I don't care. I'd prefer it to be Thomas Partey because he's better. But if and if he's not required to play a lot of games, then it'd probably be okay to let him run his deal down and let Jorginho go. But I have a feeling that if Arteta had to choose between the two, we know who he'd choose. He'd choose the coach.
I think I'm inclined to believe Partey's one is a bit of frustration with his injuries, but I think that's more off the field as well, in the sense of, we've brought in Kai Havertz for big money, Declan Rice for big money. They've signed big contracts. Obviously, in the last recent years, numerous players have signed new deals. And I'm not saying we're going to spend mad money in the summer, but we are. And when you look at it from an outlay, Partey's on the wrong side of 30. You can't bet on him being durable. It's probably more they just want to shed the wages off, really. But I think there are some rumors Partey's got an option of another year. I would like Partey to stay, a bit like Granit Xhaka. I wanted to hold on Granit Xhaka in the summer. Obviously, he wanted to leave. I kind of wanted it to be a thing where you keep Xhaka and you keep Partey, and naturally you begin to phase them out before they need phasing out, and you break up that partnership by still using them in the squad. But it weren't to be, was it, really? So here we are, man.
Yeah, they have some big decisions to make. Keep one of the old guys around, whichever one it is. It doesn't matter. Buy another DM, allow Declan Rice to play in a double pivot or that 8/6 role, whatever you're going to do, and then get some attackers and whatever. Like, we have a big summer ahead. I do think that we made our job more difficult by the decisions that were made in this past summer. Now they have to make up for that, which it is what it is. Like, it's happened already. Last on the January transfer rumor thingies, before I ask you some about your unpopular opinions, because I saw you tweeting about that, and I would love to get it on tape. I would love to get it recorded.
I wonder what I don't even know what I tweeted there, but it weren't me, Miss Officer. I don't know.
I have them saved. Don't worry. Okay, so Michael Olise and Xavi Simons, or Simon, whatever. You guys don't kill me. You guys know what I'm talking about. These two have been linked to Arsenal, and for me, these are the exact type of players that I feel like we should be getting. They feel obvious, but I have a feeling that Arsenal won't get these types of players. I don't know why. We've had the opportunity to bring in Xavi Simons, and we've been linked to him again today. Is this a player that you'd like to see at Arsenal? As creativity, can play multiple positions, already plays, like, he could replace Fabio Vieira, in the team, essentially. What do you think about these types?
Xavi Simons, I've seen firsthand, in the last 2 years, really, what you can do. I think PSG be crazy to get rid of him. I think he's someone that should be integrated. He's shown he can play out wide, play in central midfield, carries resale value, young like the rest of our squad. Lot to like about him. Bring him. Elise, I'd say the only criticism is he does pick up an injury, and he's like, if this is good and this is great, every now and again he shows greatness. It's now time to get up to that level. But I do like Elise's versatility, the fact that he's homegrown, his set pieces, the fact that he has the stardust. Those are the two players that, you know, two of the sort of makeup you'd like to see in the squad, really and truly, if I'm honest. But it's going to come down to money, and they're going to cost big bread. So, yeah, if the money's there, get it done, man. But bring them both.
I better see some money in the summer. The
Yeah,
way
because
that
if
they're
you look
acting,
at
I
the
gotta see
rumors,
some
you
money
know,
in the
we're
summer.
bringing
I'm not
everyone
trying
in
to
the
hear
summer.
nothing. I'm not trying to hear nothing. Like, really, honestly, we if I start hearing gotta sell to buy, blah,
Probably
drop
will
me
hear
out.
that. Probably
Drop me out.
will hear that. You probably will hear that. And there probably is an element of us actually having to do that to a degree as well, if I'm
Yeah.
honest.
Yeah.
So, yeah, man, get them two signings in.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult to talk about now because I'm sure that people are like, well, we're not going to get them now, so who cares? But we are kind of building for the next season because I do think, like we said this at the beginning, it's going to be difficult for Arsenal to win anything this season. So it does kind of feel like, okay, what can we do from now until, you know, whatever next season to make the squad better? And there's gaps in the squad. There, to me, there's massive gaps in the squad, and you know, adding like a Javi Simmons and a Olise type of player, I think would add a lot of creativity and, like you said, stardust. And Arsenal missed that. They missed those types of players. Like if you could replace, I don't know, Reese Nelson and freaking Fabio Vieira with those two players, I
What does
think you'd
Fabio do
be.
to you, man? Why does his name keep getting thrown out? Like, what did
I
Fabio
love,
do?
I love Vieira.
He
I
needs to eat
do,
food, though, man.
but he's definitely going to be one of those that just gets shoveled out on loan randomly when we're not really thinking about it, and then he'll just be gone forever. Like I just have this feeling about him and Kivior, they're not going to make it.
I don't think
Okay.
Kyrill's gonna get out the hood. I like Kirill, but you just look like you don't look like you believe in yourself, and I don't mean that in a bad way. You just look like, you know, you need to deep that, regardless of, you know, you're playing with all these stars and things. You're here for a reason, really, and I'm quite disappointed with Kyrill's performances, really, because I do like him, but me liking you is not enough. The better we get, the more quote unquote cutthroat we kind of have to be, really and truly, man. So hopefully he gets out the hood, but some of these guys they're not gonna be good enough, are they?
No, they're not. And I'd rather us make decisions quickly than let it fester and allow, like, if you don't think Kivior or Fabio Vieira, these guys don't have a future and you're not going to use them and you're not going to trust them, then move them on sooner rather than later, you know, in my opinion, because they just take up room. And then when we need, it's easier to sell them when they're not destroyed, you know, and right now, like you could probably move Kivior on a little bit quicker.
I mean, he's still got
And
interest from several clubs in Italy,
exactly,
really.
that's what
So
I'm
there must
saying.
be something there.
Exactly. Don't just keep him around for the freaking sake of it. You know what I mean? But
Exactly.
yeah, we'll see what Arsenal may or may not do in this window. I have a feeling that we'll do jack shit. You know, I don't think we'll do anything if I'm honest with you, but that wouldn't be surprising because we're not selling. So until we sell, we're
Exactly.
not going to bring anybody in. And so until I see somebody go, not going to get excited about anything. But I wanted to touch on those rumors just in case you guys wanted to talk about it. Now, unpopular Arsenal opinions on like this team. I know you got some. I know you got some because I saw you tweet some. You said it with some of these center midfielders, we're not going to make it out. You know, some of these wingers are overrated, and I'll give
Yeah,
you some
man.
of mine as well. But like this is just for fun. You know, it's just for fun. What is your most unpopular opinion about this Arsenal team?
Arsenal won't win anything until you sign a centre middle team. Easy. Until you sign another 6 or 8, Arsenal will not get to where they need to get to. Until I'm able to feel the same way about Declan Rice, until there's Declan Rice, another 6 and 2 8s, if that can be solved or turned internally, great. If not, we're in the same thing. Well, I don't think it's an unpopular one, but I'd say until we start being, pardon my language, bastards, we're not going to win anything. And I
Mm.
think Mikel Arteta is going to live or die by his own naiveties around certain players. If I'm completely honest with you, man, I feel we're not. Some of these players just can't take you to where they get to. I do think Arteta is his own worst enemy. I think the players are. I think we have this element of shooting ourselves in the foot by when we sign players, what we do on a pitch, etc., etc. So yeah, I'd say the most unpopular one is what we're doing in midfield. I won't say his name, and when I say he's overrated, I don't think he's bad, but there's a certain winger. It's not Saka, it's not Martinelli, it's not Reece Nelson. I think they're overrated. And when I see fans saying he should play as an 8,
Oh
he should play as a 10,
man,
brother, he's good. He's good. But
I'm
fans are
mad.
putting him on a level he's not. Hey,
I mean, he's a squad player.
Don't mean you can't be overrated. Exactly. You said it there. He's a squad player. So why do man keep talking? Man and women keep talking about why he should be taking Martinelli's spot or Saka's spot. Of course, it forms there, give someone a
Oh, I
chance.
never felt like he should be taking those people's spot, but I do
Some
feel
of
like
our
he should
fans
be
used to
played
waffle
more.
over him, man.
He should be played more, in my opinion. You know, I think so, especially in the center forward position. That's the best he's ever played for Arsenal. Yeah. Okay, so you're acting like
According
you
to
don't remember
depends
Crystal
on the
Palace,
conditions.
Leeds, Fulham. Those games last season, people
Fulham,
act like
great.
those games didn't happen. He was
Okay,
so good.
games where you don't necessarily need an organic target, man. And when he came on against Virgil van Dijk, prior
Yeah,
to us
but
falling off as well, when we played Brentford away and he was interchanging there, I think he's a good player, but you're a 15,
yeah.
20
What
goal
if
appearance,
any of
man.
our center forwards done against Virgil van Dijk? Let's be all the way
I
freaking for
mean,
real.
Jesus described him as one of, I mean, he described Jesus as one of his more difficult players, and Jesus had a
He
great
lied.
record against Liverpool.
He
There's
lied.
levels.
He
There's
lied.
levels.
He lied. Because
There's
last time we
levels.
played against Virgil van Dijk, I don't really remember Jesus doing anything. He ran around a bit, you
Oh, what,
know, but
you forgot about his goal at Anfield last year?
that was
Fair
before
enough.
we crumbled.
Fair
That was
enough.
before
Yeah,
we
yeah. And
crumbled.
when we
We
crumbled
caught them
and we
off
lost
guard.
and when we
We
lost
caught them off
control in the
guard.
game, certain man came off and certain man came on. And I like the player. I just think, as you said there, the Fulham games, them kind of games is where he plays a false nine.
Yeah. Of course.
Shoot me.
Like, I definitely think for me, Trossard is below the three. Like
I
we
didn't
know,
say any
like,
names. She said it, people. I didn't say
well,
it.
it was obvious what you were saying.
I
Hold
don't
on,
know what you're saying, Miss
happens,
Officer.
I
I
know.
weren't there. I don't know.
Man, people hate Trossard so
Now
much.
that
Trossard needs to
again, I
leave for
don't
his own
advocate
good.
hating. He's my
When
guy. He's
Trossard
sick.
leaves, I leave with him because you
He's
guys are
sick.
rude when it comes to Trossard. Arson would love Trossard. He would respect Trossard. He's an Arson player.
Yeah, he's lit. But there's many players that I think Arsenal would have loved in this Arsenal team, young and old. I could say the same about Guendouzi. I could say he'd love Saka. I'd say he'd love
He would
Odegaard.
not have loved Guendouzi.
Yes, he would have 100%
Guendouzi was
loved Guendouzi.
so
100%.
bad.
100%. He would have loved Gabby Jesus. He would have loved Martinelli. He would have loved Bukayo Saka. He would have definitely loved Martin Odegaard. He'd have a soft spot for Fabio Vieira. I think Arsene Wenger would love Timber. Again, Trossard is wavy. He's good. I like him. I just think he's here. Fans put him up there. So I think you're overrated. I wouldn't say he's mid. That's harsh. I wouldn't say he's average. And even if he's average, there's many players that are Premier League legends
right now.
that are
Look
average.
at your influence. Look at now everybody thinks he's mid. Great.
Nah, he's not mid,
Great.
man. He's not mid. He's not mid. He's not mid. He's not mid.
Let's see. I would say like one of my probably more unpopular opinions is that I feel like in the next 1 to 2 seasons, Gabriel and Gabriel Martinelli will not be starters in this team. That's probably my biggest unpopular.
Big Gabby might depend on who he's on, but I think Big Gabby doesn't get enough plaudits, man, for his partnership.
I don't
with
either.
Saliba. That boy, you're gonna see, boy. Martinelli will be all right. You don't worry about Martinelli. Like,
I'm not really that worried about Martinelli. I just feel like when Arteta continuously looks at players in your position, I start to think a little bit like, because Martinelli, why would you want Mudryk? Like, I keep thinking it was like, why would you want Mudryk? There's something about it. Like, and also Martinelli is not an Arteta signing.
Winger. Where you been in the last few games? Because you're not seeing.
I know, but who plays in that position? Who plays in that? Do you think if we had spent 89 million or 85 million on Mudryk, he would have been sitting on the bench for Martinelli?
Potentially, or he could have moved over to the right. We need a squad. We need a squad. He spent 65 million. He spent 65 million on Kai Havertz, and up until recently, he was
Martinelli was very, very close to being on the bench.
And then what happened? And then what happened? Martinelli, like he always does, responds to stuff. Brazilians, quality player.
When we buy whatever,
you can't send for Martinelli and gas Trossard, man. What's all of this, Jess?
Martinelli is not going to be a starter forever. He's not. I just have this weird feeling.
He's doing more than Trossard. I know that much.
Oh, okay. Well, Trossard is not going to be his biggest adversary. Let's be serious. But we will buy somebody.
You're right, because he's a big man.
And then all of a sudden, people are going to be, oh my gosh, what happened to Martinelli? Yeah, guys, he's on the bench. Like,
and there's nothing wrong with that because we need a squad.
Okay, and Big Gabby, the way that Arteta, he's on some nonsense. Gabriel, your time is ticking. Time is ticking. Wow. It's coming, and it's not something I would do, but I just have this feeling Arteta does not. He wants something else back there.
In fact, another opinion. I think there's logic between. Like, I like Ramsdale. I like Raya. I think if there was a keeper better than them, I think you could just bin them both. I know it's not a priority, but I think you could just bin them both and just keep it moving, if I'm
I
honest.
don't even think that's an unpopular opinion. I think a lot of people would say if they're honest with themselves and they take away their emotional attachment to Ramsdale, if we could just move them both on and bring in like a normal ass goalkeeper, they would. Like there shouldn't be this much conversation about a goalkeeper. We talk about our goalkeeper too much. It
I think
shouldn't be like
Arteta's made a lot of that noise, but you're right, man.
yeah, I definitely think he's done a lot of this. I feel like if we had just gotten Raya from the beginning, it would have been nothing. If we had just kept Ramsdale in the number one, it would have been nothing. But now that he's stirred this up, I think there's been a lot of analysis around our goalkeepers. And for me, it comes out to maybe being like neither of them are exactly what we need. And I don't really want to be talking about my goalkeeper. Goalkeepers are so boring. It's
Yeah,
boring. I don't want to talk
yeah.
about this,
It should be
you
that.
know?
Like Liverpool, for all of as great as Allison is, not talking about him, he just does his job, innit? So it'd be nice. And I like both the keepers. It's just, yeah, if we had a striker, if we had a winger, if we had the centre mids, if we had the depth and we had centre half covers and everything we want, I might be looking at the goalies. I don't know,
Yeah.
though.
What do you think about this? Smith Rowe saved Arteta's job. See where his loyalty goes. How do you feel about that? Because I feel like some people really take that like he saved your job. You should be loyal. Do you feel that way? You're an
I mean,
chameleon, so
Arteta has shown, like, you know, you never know what he's doing. It like, I know the factors aren't the same, but it looked at a point in Arsenal that we got over the hill. We had a new beginning with Ozil, we had a new beginning with Pepe, Aubameyang, and what happened. And I think at the end of the day, Mikel Arteta, if you ever leave Arsenal Football Club, you want to know that you did everything off your own back. Really, you owe loyalty to yourself. It's your job and everybody else's. Obviously, I don't think that's a bit fair to say Smith Rowe saved his job, but in terms of pushing the Smith Rowe PR, when it wasn't rosy, when only certain players wanted to stand up to be counted, it was Mr. Emil Smith Rowe, man. So yeah, to a degree, it did, man. And I'm not privy to what Arteta sees on the training ground and all these things. And obviously, Smith Rowe needs to stay fit, which he has been for the last couple of games. I would like to see the man play, especially. And again, as much as I was bantering about Trossard, I'm not saying to change everything, but when nobody's performing, where Trossard's concerned, Smith Rowe's concerned, throw some of these players in, man. Throw him in.
this is a good unpopular opinion. Saliba's individual season last season was good, first season at 21, but extremely overrated. Not sure how he got into the Premier League Team of the Year. Gabriel plus White had better seasons easily.
Next. Saliba was
Ah,
great. Next.
ah,
I do think
ah.
Saliba gets away with murder, though, in comparison to Gabriel. We've spoken about that before, but next. Big him up, but next.
Oh man.
Next.
I don't necessarily agree that it's overrated, but just on like not necessarily Gabrielle, because I think we've all established that Gabrielle is really good and doesn't get his plaudits. The way that people are talking about Ben White makes me a little uncomfortable. I'm
Yeah,
like,
big
I
him up.
seen a comp of Ben White from last season. I'm like, this is the player that people think we like is not there anymore. He's just going through a bad run of form. I don't know if he's injured or whatever, but Ben White gets spoken about in a way that makes me feel a little bit uncomfortable. I feel like we've forgotten how good of
Been
a
playing
player
with
he was
injuries as
for a
well.
few seasons. Yeah. And he doesn't I think Rob Holding said that he plays with knocks all the time.
Mm.
And that's probably not a good thing. He should probably, you know, be a little bit more like, if he's not feeling up to it, like don't stress things out. But he plays with knocks all the time. He's been extremely consistent for us. Like Ben White gets speaking about in a way that just feels a little
They
bit
play
like
him, man. I don't like it, man.
revisionism.
I think Benjamin White's great, man. Had Tommy Asu and Timber been fit, Benjamin White might have found himself getting less football, but it's a squad
Yeah,
game and we need people like that. I got a lot of time for Benjamin White. 100%. Like, he's obviously, if you need to play better, you need to play better. No one's free from criticism, but
of
Benjamin
course.
White should be a part of Arsenal's plans in some capacity moving forward. Love the guy at the club.
Yeah. I don't think I've always felt like Ben White was really good, but we could bring somebody else in or upgrade upon him. Like
Yeah.
both things can be true. I don't because if you say like, oh, I want to upgrade on Ben White, which I thought Timber would have been, people are like, oh, so you don't like Ben White? I'm like, no, but we need more than just one player that can play in that position. So
Need a squad. This is what Arsenal fans need to understand. If we want to be a team that's fighting for 4 cups and stuff, we need a squad. Results, injuries, fixture calendar list, different tactics and dynamics. These things all play a part, really, and that's what we need, man. And Ben White's one of them. He's always tanning. Listen, when Ben White plays the way he does, you can tan, do your hair, do what you need to do. I've got a lot of time for Benjamin White, and he's someone that's down for being on the trenches. He doesn't get enough plaudits for it, but he's a rattler, man. You always see him peeing off the other team. I've got time for Benjamin White. I do think he looks better as a fullback because you just think he looks better as a fullback, but yeah, man, he's versatile as well. I've got time for Benjamin White, man. A lot of time.
I do too. I like him a lot. Last question before we get out of here. I just want to get your overall opinion on Leao, because some Arsenal fans big this guy up like that's their king, and he's not playing well right now. I don't know if you guys noticed this. He hasn't scored in the league for since September, and I'm just saying, is this your king? Is this your people? Like, why is he so loved? Like, is it gas? Like, what do you think about Leao? Because people are like, he's world class. I'm like, is he?
I don't know about world class shouts, because I feel in general that thing there is thrown around. I like Leao a lot. I would try and convert him into a striker, but I don't believe he has the capacity to do that. I think he's a left winger. I think he's fairly exciting. Sometimes I think he can be a headless chicken. Sometimes I think he goes through moments, but I've got a lot of time for Leao, man. I fuck with Leao, man. I like Leao, man. I like Rafa Leao. I'm a big fan of how he likes to take his man on as well. Like, I like Leao, man.
Would you want him at Arsenal?
I wouldn't say no to him at Arsenal, but it's a myth. I've got time for Leao.
Okay.
Why, you don't rate him?
Oh gosh, every time I watch him, I'm just like, you guys love a player that does a whole lot of nothing sometimes. Like, you like a player that's just like, he does a little move here and there. You guys get so excited about it. You see his YouTube comps, it looks so good, and he's wavy and all this type of stuff. But I'm watching him and I'm like, he ain't better than Martinelli.
You're praising Martinelli? Damn. That's crazy.
I like Martinelli. I just don't think he's as great as other people do. Like, I don't know. I don't want to get into it because I don't want people in my comment section telling me I hate Martinelli.
Nah, man. Listen, we're allowed thoughts. It's all entertainment, man. The world would be boring if we all thought one way, in it. Like,
yeah, for sure. For sure. Well, you guys, we've done the business. We've spoken about everything under the sun and nothing at all, because we haven't played in a while. So, and we're not doing anything in this window. So it is what it is, but I have enjoyed the stream as usual. Thank you for being on my stream today. We're going to call you CJ from now. We can call you CJ. It feels weird.
Yeah, I said just pick me on a pick, man.
Hang out, deluded gooner, like that feels weird. Like, CJ, it was great talking to you. We're going to go on your channel and record something in a sec.
Yeah, I'm due to send you a link in a sec.
You're subscribed to his channel, you're liking his videos, you're getting the notifications on, whatever, because I'll be on there soon. And yeah, follow him on Twitter, all that kind of stuff for his unpopular opinions. He says mad things on Twitter that needs to be addressed. I don't know.
I don't handle my social media. There's someone else. I don't know.
Okay, right. Right. He has a social media manager. So yeah, you guys, we will talk to you guys on the next one. Make sure all 200 of you guys like this video and subscribe to the channel. And we'll see you guys later. Bye, y'all.
Peace.